In this lesson, we'll use motion lapse and slow shutter speeds to get some fantastic car light trail effects. That's where you see the lights of the cars really stretched out across the video as cars pass by. Now we could use a time-lapse mode for this, but doing a motion lapse will give it a little bit more of an interesting effect. And also, we'll be using the Mimo app as it gives us a much larger screen to view. If you don't know how to set up the motion lapse or time lapse, go back and review that lesson. But there's a few things we need to keep in mind. First, because it's dark, we need a long exposure time, something like 5 to 8 seconds. The camera will open the shutter and take a picture with the shutter speed open for that amount of time. In our example, it's about 7 seconds. This long exposure is why we see the stretched light effect as the cars pass by. But also because the shutter is open for so long, it's very easy to overexpose the image, and we don't want that. So I use an ND8 filter to help with this. Now, depending on how bright your scene is, you may need to get a darker or lighter filter, like ND16 or 32 or 64, for example. It'll just depend on what your scene is. The other thing to do here is to do a sample picture or a very short time lapse, just to check what your finished look will be and make sure that your exposure is exactly how you want it. In this example, we can see it looks very bright. That's because I left the ISO value too high, even though I had an ND filter 8 on there. So the camera tried to adjust for exposure and ended up overexposing the image by increasing the ISO too much. So using the Mimo app, select time lapse, turn Pro Mode on, and you can select the frame rate of 24, 25, or 30. However, it's only in 1080p resolution. There's no 4K. Set your ISO values and your shutter speed as you desire, or just leave the exposure mode to normal if that's easier for you. Again, taking a sample picture will judge if your settings are good for your scene. Now select the top menu to set your duration and interval. I chose custom motion and manually move the camera head to my start and end points and set their positions there. Next, I chose a duration of 20 minutes and an interval of actually 7 seconds. Now the camera was hunting, which is where the camera is not sure where to focus on because of the lighting conditions. So I just pressed on the screen and locked the focus. You'll notice a small lock appear on the yellow box. I ended up with a shutter speed of 7 seconds and an ISO set to auto max of 100, meaning the ISO can't go above 100. Now just press record. You may notice that the lights in the scene have blue streaks. This is because I attached an anamorphic lens to the Pocket, and this gives these blue light streaks. Anamorphic lenses also squeeze the image, giving a wider view in the horizontal axis. The one I use is the Freewell magnetic lens with an ND filter, but there are also other brands too. So there you have it. Go out and find some interesting views, and add this effect definitely gives your video the wow factor. I'll see you all in the next video.